This video is going to focus on defining CFS, and in this video I'm going to be looking at the signs and symptoms that need to be present for the diagnosis of CFS to be made. And I'm going to be using this book, Hope and Help for Chronic Fatigue Syndrome and Fibromyalgia, as my reference. This book was written by Dr. Alison Bested, and I think she's the only CFS, ME, and fibro specialist in Ontario. And she was part of the 2003 expert panel on CFS, which came out with the 2003 Canadian definition of the disease, which I think is used by all the patient groups around the world, if I'm not mistaken. So it's considered the most accurate definition of CFS, and it's really important that this disease has a good working definition, because there is no diagnostic test available yet. People are working tirelessly as we speak to come out with one. For one, so that the disease becomes more legitimate, and secondly, so that people can cope with it better. So I'll be going through the symptoms, and I'll post the link to where you can find this definition down below in the description. Alright, so before the diagnosis of ME/CFS can be made, you need to rule out other diseases which have similar symptoms. Obviously, with all the diseases out there, there's tons of overlap of symptoms. So the first symptom is fatigue and malaise. In this disease, when you do too much or exert yourself in any way, whether that be physically, mentally, or even emotionally, you could end up what's called crashing, which is you get a whole bunch of symptoms, a whole bunch of fatigue, a whole bunch of malaise. But at the same time, you need to exercise as much as you can without crashing in order to get better. So CFS, it's really a fine balancing act. It's all about pacing, it's all about listening to your body, like, intensely, really, getting in touch with yourself, and finding that sweet spot between crashing and trying to slowly regain your energy and be as functional as you possibly can. The third symptom is pain. There is a significant degree of muscle pain. Pain can also be experienced in the joints and is often widespread and changes location. Often there is a new onset of headaches post-illness. Headaches may be different quality and in a different location than in the past. Luckily for me, I don't really have that much pain. I do get headaches, new headaches definitely, of different severity. I haven't gotten headaches as bad as what I've gotten recently. About the pain, as this book has just said, the pain can basically be anywhere in the body, which makes sense because it is neurological pain, and obviously the brain is attached to every part of the body. Okay, the third symptom is sleep dysfunction. There is unrefreshed sleep and or difficulty getting to or maintaining sleep. My experience with this, I don't really have a problem maintaining sleep. It takes me a while to get to sleep, and my sleep isn't as refreshed. When I first started coming down with this illness, I started getting like really lucid dreams, where I was basically thinking in my dreams, and so naturally when I woke up, it's like I hadn't slept because my mind was still pretty active. Alright, symptom 5. 2 or more neurological cognitive manifestations. Confusion, impairment of concentration and short-term memory, disorientation, difficulty with information processing, categorization and word retrieval, and perceptual and sensory disturbances. The expert panel describes overload phenomena, cognitive and sensory, i.e. heightened sensitivity to lights and noises, and or emotional overload, which may lead to crash periods and or emotional symptoms. Everything is more intense, and because of that, you spend more energy doing, simpler things because of the increased intensity, and that can lead to crashing. So I guess an example of this would be like, whereas before I could listen to like really, loud music, and now I still enjoy really loud music, but now it's just a lot more exhausting than it used to be. Fifth symptom. At least one symptom from two of the following categories. And so the first category is autonomic manifestations. Blood pressure abnormalities, particularly when rising from laying or seated position, often called delayed postural hypotension. Lightheadedness, nausea and irritable bowel syndrome, urinary frequency and bladder dysfunction, heart palpitations, shortness of breath with physical activity. Okay, that's the first category. Second category is neuroendocrine manifestations. Thermostat regulation is lost, presenting a lowered body temperature with significant daily function. Sweating episodes, recurrent feelings of feverishness and cold extremities, intolerance of extremes of heat and cold, significant weight change, lack of or abnormal appetite, worsening of symptoms with stress. Third category, immune manifestations, tender lymph nodes, recurrent sore throat, recurrent flu-like symptoms, general malaise, new sensitivities to food, medications, and/or chemicals. Personally, from the autonomic manifestations category, the biggest thing that I found is, which I never had before, is like vertigo getting up from a laying position. I mean, at one point I had to like grab onto something to make sure I didn't fall over, which I've never had to do before. The second category, neuroendocrine manifestations. I think the biggest thing I get from this, actually I get a lot of this stuff, but I do have a funny, well not funny, but I guess it's sort of funny in hindsight. Funny thermostat story. When I was first getting sick, I felt really flu-like and feverish, which I still do sometimes, when I'm not feeling well. And so I was taking my temperature to see if I had a fever. And not only did I not have a fever, but my temperature was actually lower. Obviously, the normal human body temperature is 37 degrees, and that's how it had been, that's what my temperature was before. But then I found out that the thermometer says 36 degrees, and so I'm like, well, I didn't know there was a condition where your body temperature was lower than average. I heard of fevers, I never heard of reverse fever. Anyway, but then I stumbled upon CFS, and I'm like, wow, from the category of immune manifestations, I don't have tender lymph nodes. I do get a sore throat and recurrent flu-like symptoms. I do get general malaise. Okay, final symptom. The final symptom is the illness is chronic and lasts at least for 6 months in adults, 3 months in children. Usually has a distinct onset, although it may be gradual. And I switched between ME and CFS. ME is the much better name. CFS, well, it's a name devised to sort of make light of the illness, and it does precisely that. People hear CFS and they don't think of this disease. But anyway, the last thing I'll say is I'm just going to go back to the importance of sort of having this definition, because to really do good research into this, you really have to look at a specific patient population, because you're not going to see the difference between people with this disease and normal people if you're mixing in different things. I suppose the most recent example of this is I think about a month or two ago, a British doctor named Simon Wesley published a paper called the PACE trial. Controversy because not only are its conclusions sort of false and leading, it suggests that its disease is psychological in nature, and there's plenty of evidence to prove that it's not. Anyone who studies the disease, or basically has the disease, knows it isn't. But what also happened was that he took a bunch of people that weren't diagnosed using this 2003 Canadian definition. They were diagnosed using the 1991 Oxford definition, which is basically a lot less specific, a lot more broad. Doesn't go into the details of all the different parts of the body the disease affects. And so that's why they were able to get these results that don't really apply to the vast majority of ME patients. And this this sort of paper could be quite damaging for all the patients and patient groups, what they've fought for over the years, to try to get legitimacy, and of course legitimacy for the sake of getting funds to do research, so that a cure can be found and people don't have to be sick anymore. Simon Wesley, another thing about him, he was the doctor who wanted the name changed from ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, to chronic fatigue syndrome, because he thought ME sounded too serious, which it is serious, and he thought chronic fatigue syndrome made the disease sound a lot more trivial and less serious, and he accomplished that. Also, ME was categorized by the WHO, the World Health Organization, in 1969 as being, a neurological problem, a neurological disease. Simon Wesley contacted the WHO and asked them to change its categorization from neurological to psychiatric. But yeah, Simon Wesley, he's sort of the boogeyman for people with ME CFS. And my condolences to people in the UK. I don't think I would sleep very well at night knowing that Simon Wesley could be lurking around my neighborhood. So I'm sorry about that. And yeah, that's really all I gotta say for this video. Comments, questions, complaints, I'd love to hear them. And yeah, I hope to make more videos about this topic, because it's something that affects me, and I've always been concerned with issues of, justice, and this one definitely touches close to home.